This is what the Dagger-board slots on the Catamaran looked like. But since it's never going to sail again, I'm going to fill these in. And to start my repair, I've ground down to bare fiberglass, removing all the gel coat from the repair area, and now I'm wiping down with acetone to get rid of the dust from sanding mostly at this point. Once I've got the area clean, I'm going to use tape to close off the slot, leaving little gaps to spray foam in the way I did over the doorway, if you have seen that previous video. So one little strip of tape at a time, and eventually I cover up the whole Dagger-board slot. And this is what it looks like once it's covered up. I've left a few little holes for injecting foam into. It's the spray can foam, like this. And there's foam will go in each of these little holes that I've left in the tape. I'm not sure how far the foam would go if in the slot, if you just put it in from one end. The Dagger-board slots are very tall, so I suspect you'd lose a lot of foam that way. But this is how I did it. And now the foam has hardened, and I've got one of those disposable razor knives that works real good to slice the foam off even with the surface. And now I can peel the tape. And this is what it looks like now. The foam is a little bit convex, and I did miss a spot where I'll just take some of the excess foam that came out the holes and shove it in there later. And so I'm just taking the grinder and making where the foam was convex. I'm going to make that concave now in preparation for the next step in my repair. And this is what it looks like concave. So I call this super pooky. It's thickened resin with a bunch of chopped glass fibers in it. And it makes it a lot stronger than if you just the thickened resin that I normally use for glue. And there's some of the pieces of foam that had come out the holes, and I just take a couple little chunks and shove in that gap where the foam didn't fill. And then once the foam is in the gap, then I can just throw some more super pooky over the top of it. And that's that area being sanded now. And with that roughly the way it's supposed to be, I'm going to smooth it in a bit more with just one more layer of super pooky before I start throwing glass cloth over this. There's a guy that has a channel on YouTube called Born Again Boating, and he was using pooky as a term for thickened resin. So this is super pooky. You could check out his channel. He has a lot of helpful boat fixing advice. Unlike me, he's a professional boat fixer. So this is putting some glass over it, and I use the real thin chopped strand mat when I'm glassing upside down, because it being lighter, it sticks better. You roll a bunch of resin on, let that get a little bit tacky, and then you can set the glass under, upside down, and it will stick good enough for you to start rolling resin on and get it stuck down with the resin. It also helps to only put on one small piece at a time, so you don't have a lot of weight of the fiberglass trying to pull it off of the upside down surface. And so here's how it came out so far. The center board, Dagger-board well started right about there. You can sort of see it through the glass. I don't really know how many layers is on. It was filled originally with spray foam, and then some thickened resin with chopped fibers. Just sort of plastered in there. And then a couple layers of real thin chopped strand, because it's upside down, it's easier to do. And then this morning I put a narrow strip right where the Dagger-board was, because it seemed a little concave there. And then about a 3-inch and a 4-inch, a 5-inch, and finally a strip the full width. So it's not real thick glass, it's the thin chopped strand, but there's probably 8 layers there, and it's only to keep water out of the Dagger-board well, really. I'd need a lot more if I was making hull, patching a big hole in the hull or something. I'll probably lay some more over this later, but for now I'm getting ready to do the other side. And so I've got all my different thicknesses of fiberglass cut out. And I've moved the resin mixing stuff here, because I was constantly running back to mix more. And I don't want to mix a big batch because it will go off before I'm done. So, mix many small batches. And okay, so this is how this looks after it's got the foam. It's got the chopped fibers and thickened resin. And then it had some chopped strand over it, and again it seemed a little concave, so I put more thickened resin in all along. And I think that's where we are. I think it's smoothed out at the edges, but I'm pretty sure that's just thickened resin over the top of the foam and a couple of layers of chopped strand.